Morning, Clem, too, and everyone. Hope you had a good weekend. We had a good weekend. Karen was down visiting her mom and sisters for her mom's birthday down in Florida. And I was just like kind of a slow weekend doing this and that and other things, but it was a good weekend. Sunny day today, so that's nice. We're not dealing with any precipitation, rain, snow, sleet, hail like we were last week, but I think it's coming back. So we'll see. Clem, too. I never heard. Did you guys dig out of your snow hole yet? What's happening there? I haven't checked the weather there lately. In our series on the Ten Commandments, last week we dealt with a very serious one. They're all serious. Don't get me wrong, but you shall not commit adultery, and yeah, that was a tough one, but we worked our way through that. It's a kind of a subject. It's kind of tough because it deserves so much more time than what these little 10-minute podcasts can give. This is the part of the podcasting that drives me crazy because there's so much more to say on all of these topics than I can possibly say in 10 minutes, even a series of 3 10-minute talks. But we've been working through God's top 10 list of good behavior. Interestingly, if you poll people, most people will say they believe in well, at least they used to, would say they believe in the 10 Commandments. If you then ask them to list the 10 Commandments, and I've done this when I've taught this series in churches and places before, and I find it to be true. But then if I turn around and I ask them, okay, give me the 10 Commandments, the average person can get to 5 or 6 of them, sometimes 7. Very few people can actually name all 10, even though we say we believe in them, we say they're important to understand. But the one today is one of the ones that people will always remember. There's a couple of them that people will always remember. And this is one of them, number 8 on our God's top 10 list of good behavior is you shall not steal. This is not a terribly hard one to understand, is it? I mean, I could end the broadcast now. Stop stealing. In fact, I titled today's podcast, If It Ain't Yours, Keep Your Paws Off of It. So on the surface, it's not hard to understand this one at all. No good society or community can function if there's just widespread stealing from one another and not respect for one another. So obviously, very foundational. But there's actually, like in all of these commandments, there's a great deal of things underlying it that it's speaking to. It's just a little phrase that's meant to represent a whole lot of stuff. So, you shall not steal. What is underlying all of that? And that's kind of what I wanted to, some of those things I wanted to start talking about today. And if we need more time, we'll go into Wednesday on this one. But as I said, this one is not hard to understand. So let's look at the number one principle that comes to mind underlying this one. And it's probably not one that you would think. Like if I was to ask you, what's the underlying principle or verse that Scott's going to go to help us understand you shall not steal, what would it be? Well, here it is, Psalm 24:1. The earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it. For he founded it on the seas, and he established it on the waters. The earth is the Lord's and everything in it. It all belongs to God at the end of the day. My tea today belongs to God. My phone belongs to God. My computer belongs to God. My clothes belong to God. I belong to God. You belong to God. The things you own belong to God. The things that your neighbor owns belongs to God. But so we start with that as a building block. It all at the end of the day belongs to God, but that does not give us free access to everything, because God has then turned around and entrusted people with certain things for their good. God says all good and perfect gifts come down from above, and he is the one that supplies to meet the needs of his people. And even at times the desires of their heart that goes beyond just what they need. And so we're called to respect those boundaries. We first see it as these are things that belong to God. Secondly, these are things that God has given to various individuals. And so we tend to think of stuff as our stuff, but we really should think of it as God's stuff. And the second thing then is that we should not allow stuff to have a grip on our heart. It doesn't matter whether it's our stuff or their stuff. It should not have a grip on our heart. So let's go back and look at the next verse that I want to share with you today. It's found in 1 Timothy chapter 6. This is a very familiar verse, one of the most misquoted verses, even by people that aren't Christians or Bible-believing people, but they kind of know this is in there somewhere, and it gets misquoted. It says, "For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil." How is it misquoted? A lot of people just say the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. No, money is not the root of all kinds of evil. Money is not the problem. Our heart attitude about money is the problem. Money can be a good thing. Money can do a lot of good things. I'm in the midst of writing a newsletter right now to people that support our ministry, and they give their hard-earned money to name ministries to support the ministry that we do among First Nations people. That's good use of money. Money is not in itself a bad thing. We live in a house. We need housing. We don't live outdoors. We're not animals. We live in houses. It takes money to have a house. A house is not money is not the bad thing. It's our attitude towards money. And when it says money, it doesn't just mean the paper dollars themselves or the coins. It represents everything that money can buy. So the things themselves are not bad. The money's not bad. The house is not bad. The possessions aren't bad. None of those things in and of themselves are bad. What can be bad is our attitude towards those things. And so when we become consumed with wanting, and then we see somebody has it over there and they're not looking, we are tempted to take it from them, or from the store, or from the business, or from the wherever. I can remember the first and only time I ever shoplifted. I actually did it by accident. I was in a store and I had picked up a pack of gum, and then I was looking for other stuff in the store, and so without thinking, I slipped it into my pocket. And then I went and found the other stuff. And honestly, by the time I got to the register, I forgot completely it was in my pocket. I bought my stuff and I went home, and I reached my pocket and there was the pack of gum. And I can remember being really afraid that I was going to get arrested for shoplifting, even though I didn't mean to. I immediately turned around and went back to the store and paid for it. But the love of stuff drives people to do all kinds of stuff. Shoplifting right now is at an all-time bad, but that's not the only place it comes out. It comes out in a lot of places in our lives. But the love of money and stuff drives people to do stuff like stealing. The lack of respect for other people drives people to steal from those people. But when you begin to bring it down and say, well, it all belongs to the Lord has given this to them and this to me, and I'm going to respect those boundaries, then we don't put ourselves in a place of stealing or even being tempted to steal from other people. Now, there's a final verse that I want to share with you today, and I'm just going to read it to you. The Apostle Paul said this. "I'm not saying this because I am in need," he wrote to the believers in a church in a faraway place called Philippi. "I'm not saying this because I am in need, but for I've learned to be content whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. And I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or living in want, because I can do all of this through Jesus Christ who gives me strength." So that's the word that I want to end on today. Listen, if it's not yours, don't take it. It's that simple. Thou shalt not steal. Have a good couple days, and I'll see you all on Wednesday.